Hi, happy Thursday. It's Allegra, your friendly neighborhood brain science based productivity and time management expert. And as you know, I also like to talk about all things self care because you can't be productive if you aren't taking care of yourself. And if you've been following me for a while, then you know I am in a season of self care. You can see the URL here. I have put all of the podcasts in one place. I think there are about 15 of them now. Or you can scan this QR code to go to that same page where you can hear all of my podcasts on a season of self care. I started with skincare because I think it's a really easy entry point for people. Most of us want to look and feel our best. My skin used to be so neglected that it felt like cracking glass. It was painful, literally painful. That's how unaware I was of how to take care of my skin. However, what I've learned through the brain science is that touching your face when you do skincare releases the same chemicals as when you get a hug. So it feels good. And now that I'm about 12 years into having a skincare ritual, I only started in my 40s. I really see the benefit of it and I could never go the other way. My skin feels so much better. My skin looks better now than it did in my late 30s, like post-pregnancy, late 30s. My skin looks better now at 52. Also, I enjoy the process because, well, it's become a whole thing for me. If you watch how I do my morning and evening skincare, you'll see it's a whole ritual. It's very relaxing. Then I talked about what I put inside my body in terms of food and supplements and hydration. Then I talked about movement and fascia, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about on a daily basis. And today I'm going to talk about creativity. It's probably just going to be this one podcast about creativity as self care, creative expression as self care. But before I get into that, I do want to mention a few things because, hey, Mother's Day is coming up this weekend. And if you're a mom or if you know one, I just want to offer a little bit of advice for you and maybe to share with those in your life. In my opinion, Mother's Day is whatever mom wants it to be. And so don't be afraid to speak up and ask for what you want. It's the only way to get what you want. I have spent many a fun Mother's Day at my local Renaissance fair, or going to brunch at a favorite organization of mine, not a restaurant, but a private place where I just enjoy being, going away for the weekend, whatever it is that you want to do. I have already picked out the food that I am asking my family to make for me on Mother's Day. And a big tip is that if mom has to clean up, then you're missing out on one of the ways that you can most be appreciated by your mom, which is not having to pick up after you later. So I do think that at a certain age, the burden shifts from any adults in your house to the children themselves. I'm not sure when the shift happens, maybe around 13 to 16, depending on your kiddo. But I have made that clear to my kiddo that, just like I take the lead when it comes to my kiddo's birthday or the holidays, this is a holiday when I expect my child to step up. I've also made it clear that in terms of gifts, all I want is for my kiddo to make the breakfast of my choice, which is a dish that she's able to do. It's something that she's done with me many times. And also, I asked for a card with her favorite memories from this past year. I think a lot of us enjoy receiving written sentiments, but people don't know what to write. And I have found that when I'm writing something to somebody, sharing a favorite memory is always a welcome gift to be given. So, my husband and I, we've been together a long time. We still have fun things to share in the last year. Honestly, how many times can you say, I love you? I mean, I do say I love you, but when it comes to our anniversary or whatever, saying the same, I'm glad I chose you gets a little repetitive. At least it feels repetitive as the writer. However, adding in a favorite memory of mine from this year always transforms that little written piece of information into something special and cherished. So share a favorite memory with your loved ones. Ask your kiddos to share a favorite memory of theirs with you, and it can become a new and easy way to celebrate each other. Okay, so as you know, if you've joined me for a while, I like to call out some interesting facts about where my listeners are coming from. And recently, Argentina has bubbled up as one of the countries that is tuning into the podcast. Welcome. Thank you. I have never been to Argentina. And so I looked up some interesting facts. And one thing that I did not know, but obviously it makes sense when you think about it, the name Argentina comes from the Latin word for silver, argentum. And I think the word for silver is similar in Spanish. I'm blanking on what that is, but argentum is the Latin word for silver, and the European conquerors who went to Argentina heard of silver deposits there, and so Argentina. So interesting. Also, Argentina is the home of the highest and lowest points in the southern hemisphere. The highest point is Mount Aconcagua. Acon Aconcagua. It looks like Aconcagua. Aconcagua. I'm confused because it has the word agua in it, so I keep wanting to say agua, but it looks like it's Aconcagua. Mount Aconcagua is the highest point in the southern hemisphere, and it also has the lowest point, which is a salt lake called Laguna del Carbon. Coal Lagoon. I wonder if it's extra buoyant there. I had the amazing experience of swimming in the Dead Sea, and because of the high salt content, it is very buoyant, so it's actually really hard to swim. It's like your arms and legs are flailing on the surface. I wonder if Laguna del Carbon is similar. I'm gonna have to look that up. Argentinian cuisine has a lot of beef in it. In 2020, about 50 kilograms per person. So that's a little over 100 pounds per person. However, apparently that was low because of COVID. So usually it's a little bit higher than that. They're well known for their beef. And of course, you know it's home of the tango, but did you know they also have their own native cowboy called the gaucho? I know that for a funny reason, which is that wonderful, if you've ever seen it, there's an amazing Disney cartoon called Saludos Amigos. Hello, friends. And it came out in the mid 1900s, so 1950s ish. And apparently it did more for international relations between North America and South America than decades of diplomacy. And it's something that I grew up watching. And the gaucho, Goofy as a gaucho, was always a highlight. And obviously, very popular. Football is very popular there, soccer, aka soccer. However, it's not the national sport. The national sport is a game that it kind of looks like polo, but apparently it's called pato because it was played with, oh my gosh, it's so horrible. It was played with a duck in a cage inside a basket, a live duck in a basket, hence pato, because pato means duck. I'm glad they switched to a ball. And also, Argentina has had 2 female presidents. Amazing. But also, it once went through 5 presidents in just 10 days in 2001. So, wow, some very interesting facts about Argentina. I've never been to Argentina, but thank you for joining me. Saludos, amigos. And I'm going to pull a card from my little deck of positive chaos here. I always love seeing what these cards say. Oh, Gretchen Rubin. She's the happiness expert. I know who that is. What you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. This is why I talk so much about having habits and rituals in your life, because what you do every day matters and what you do once in a while. You know, if I have a very repetitive menu because it's easy and it keeps me fueled the way I wanna be fueled, but I am not one of these people who avoids the foods that I crave. If I want pizza, I have pizza. If I want a bagel, I have a bagel, but once in a while. I maybe have 2 bagels a month. I I probably have pizza the same amount of time, probably twice a month. However, I'm having my chia smoothie that you saw me eat in my, season of self-care all about hydration. I have that 5 days out of 7, and that is what is dictating my health. That is what is keeping me fueled with protein and fiber and all sorts of other things. So what you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. This is why I talk about creating habits and rituals so that it just becomes an integral part of your day. It becomes something that you love, maybe even crave. Once something becomes a habit, your brain releases chemicals that make you crave that thing. Even if, like, my chia smoothie is not delicious at all. However, it makes me feel good and my brain recognizes that. And so I crave it. I travel with chia seeds everywhere, no matter where I am. In fact, it's one of my favorite things to take when I'm traveling on the plane because it guarantees I'm gonna have a nutritious meal. I just put in my chia seeds and my protein mix, and then whenever I am actually hungry, I can mix that in a water bottle that I bring with me. I always have 2 stainless steel water bottles with me. Sometimes one of them's glass, but I always have 2. One that's insulated and one that isn't, and I always have both with me. The insulated one has a big wide neck, so it makes it really easy to make my smoothie on the go, and so I always have that with me. That's how committed I am to my chia smoothie every day. And plus it just travels so well. It's so small, and it just guarantees that when I'm on vacation, I'm having at least 1 meal a day that is good for me while I'm indulging, the rest of the time. My family was on vacation, earlier this month, kind of a vacation, but also we were there for a family memorial, so sad things too. But this person had been declining for a long time and it had passed actually 5 months previous, so we'd worked through a lot of things, so we were able it was a nice mix of memorial and vacation, if you will. I know that sounds odd probably, but yes, we indulged. We indulged a lot. And but I also had my chia smoothie. So, there you go. Thank you, Gretchen Rubin. So, today I wanna talk about creative expression as self-care. For a long time, I actually thought about writing a book about what I see as a crisis of lack of creativity. As you've heard me mention, I studied anthropology in undergrad. And so I always go back to how did we evolve as humans to live whenever I'm asking myself a question. And the reality is that our world, our technology has changed a lot in the last 100 years. However, our DNA, our programming has not. It doesn't change that quickly. And so the things that made humans happy 100 years ago are the things that still make humans happy because we're still those same people. And the thing is that 100 years ago, we didn't have the internet, obviously, with all of this media to consume. We didn't have music that was omnipresent. Maybe a few people had phonographs, but what they could listen to is very limited, and the phonographs themselves were very limited. So what did people do? They made music. They played an instrument. They sang. They just smacked sticks together. There's this one instrument. I have a friend who's in a traditional Irish band, and this guy plays bones. They're like some bones that he just like it sounds so cool. It's a percussion instrument, but they're just bones. Humans, like to express ourselves through dance, through music, through song. Again, you don't have to sing by yourself. I have done choral singing most of my life because it's just fun to sing with other people. And you don't have to be good when you sing in a group because it all gets averaged out. Like, one, when you sing with a group, you probably sing better because you have all these voices around you that you can tune to. However, also, it just kind of blends in a beautiful way. I've never been a part of a choir that did not sound good. So, given the fact that humans, for our entire existence, have been creating things, jewelry, food, cooking is also another way of creating. I don't consider creating just to be quote unquote high art. I'm not saying you have to go become a painter or a poet to have creative expression. Although, if those things interest you, go ahead. What I mean by creativity is simply making things, whatever it is. Instead, a lot of us have traded creation for consumption. Okay. 100 years ago, there weren't a lot of restaurants, and the restaurants that existed were a lot more expensive than the restaurants we have around, like fast food. Like, fast food did not exist, right? Inexpensive food like that did not exist, where it was cheaper to eat out than to eat at home. Okay. And that flip is what has changed a lot of people's behavior. Well, it's cheaper to eat out than to eat at home. However, the only way to control what you're eating, the quality of what you're eating, is to eat at home, one. And two, it's an opportunity to be creative, to be a maker. I also think that cooking is one of the best ways to be creative because it's one of the only things I can think of that stimulates all five senses. And the more of your senses that you stimulate, guess what? The more interested and engaged you are. That's just how it works, right? So when you are, I often give this example when I talk about in my trainings, I talk about making an apple pie. And the first step to making an apple pie is to choose those apples in the grocery store. And what are you looking for? If you're me, you're looking for a crisp, firm apple, preferably a mix of Granny Smith and maybe Gala and Fuji, depending on what's available. No brown spots, right? And you maybe even want to smell it to see if it is an apple that's just going to be really tasty. You want to make sure it's not mushy. And then when you get it home, you cut it and you hear that lovely swoosh of the knife and then that clunk when it hits the wooden cutting board. Swoosh clunk as you cut up your apples. And then you mix it with the sugar and butter. It's so easy. Apple pie is so easy, especially the way I do it. So I saute it with butter and sugar in a pan, and then I just throw the dough over it and put it into my toaster oven. And I get to smell the scent of the butter and the sugar caramelizing and the butter in the pastry puffing up. And I see it changing from that white color to that golden brown that we all love. And then only then do I get to take it out and taste it, right? And if you're listening to this, your mouth might be watering if you like apple pie, because I just stimulated those parts of your brain that would have gotten stimulated if you'd made it yourself. Okay. So all that anticipation is part of what makes cooking so much fun. You get to go through all the senses and then you're excited about it. And then you finally have the thing. And even if it's not the best apple pie you've ever tasted in your entire life, it's still going to taste better just because you've gone through this whole process. Like, do you remember as a kid how exciting it was to see those presents under the tree or in your stocking or wherever your presents are, just to know that they were coming? That anticipation is part of what makes making things exciting because your payoff is down the road. And so the buildup makes you appreciate the payoff that much more. When you consume, there's no buildup. There was no buildup to hearing that song or to eating that food at the restaurant, unless, it was a reservation you made months in advance. Maybe then you have a little anticipation. Um, maybe if you're going to a concert and you bought tickets months in advance, maybe there's some anticipation. But if you're just clicking on the radio or if you're just, going through a drive-through, it's not the same anticipation as you have when you're making something. And that is very fulfilling. Like having the anticipation and the payoff is very fulfilling. So, find something that you enjoy doing. You don't have to do it professionally. You don't have to do it at a high level. If you followed me, then you know that I do comedy at a high level. I produce a show. I'm actually going to be performing at Pechanga Resort in this summer. Okay, so I take that seriously. But there are lots of creative things that I don't take as seriously. I dabble in embroidery because it's something that I think is fun to do while I'm listening to an audiobook. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it. I also dabble in making things like I like to go to historic events, so I will make parts of our costumes, so that's really fun for me. Again, I'm not good at it. But I know how much joy I get from doing the thing, and so I do it, and it's just a great way to stimulate other parts of your brain. I do also, in addition to my comedy, I do like to do other forms of writing, um, mostly journaling type writing. So I do use things like writing prompt journals for that. So I love this one here. It's just a great way. It asks me really interesting questions that I would never ask myself. And it makes me think about things in a different way, which is why I like this. I also keep a one line a day journal, but that's different. That's just my thoughts. But this one is asking, like, for instance, do you believe in soulmate? What is your definition of a soulmate? Name 10 things that should be peppermint flavored but are not. I'm not sure if I can think of 10 things, but it'll be an interesting brain exercise. So, things like that. I also like doing Sudoku, which is a little less creative, but still just a great way to work the brain. I like to do neurographic. I like to draw, but I don't always have something that I want to be drawing. So a fun way for me that I have found to do drawing that isn't figurative is a type of art called neurographic art. So here's one right here. I have it hanging up next to my desk. So this is a really fun way to express myself. I really like the outcome of this one. I've done many of them, but this is my favorite one. And so, explore different ways to express yourself creatively because I do believe that many people feel under understimulated in life in a way that can't be achieved from the outside world. You have to stimulate yourself. And I believe that many people have a sense of I don't know if boredom is the right word or unengaged or um, unmotivated, but I do think that creative expression can help you feel more interested. And also, I feel like it's good for your self esteem. Like, I didn't know I had this drawing in me until I did it. So I think it can be really uplifting to see what you're capable of. I didn't know I had that apple pie in me until I started making it. I didn't know I had these thoughts in me until I started answering these questions. So, think of things that interest you and follow that thread wherever it may be. Wherever it may go, you might be surprised in a good way. And as always, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on the internet. These are just things that I have found have helped me to be my most engaged, to keep my brain stimulated in a healthy way. It's not that I don't enjoy consuming creativity. I love watching stand-up comedy. I watch a lot of stand-up comedy. I also enjoy the occasional movie. I probably don't watch movies as much as the average person. I maybe watch 2 movies a month, and then, series I don't watch series, but I don't watch series not because I don't like them. I don't watch series because I don't have time to get into them, especially if they've been out for years, and I don't wanna get engaged and then have to, like, feel like I wanna binge the whole thing. Now, I do have an exception for that. I Once a year, I get together with some girlfriends and we do a trip together, and we will usually binge something together. And often it's something like last year, we binged Paradise together, and I guess a new season has come out, and so none of us have watched it because we're gonna be seeing each other soon, and we're gonna binge it together. So that's kind of my caveat for when I will watch a series. I really like, um, Bridgerton. So, I watch Bridgerton and then I don't watch the series until I know that I can watch a few episodes together. So, I'll wait for a holiday or something like that to come around so I can do that. But I probably spend more time creating things than I do consuming things. And I think that's part of why I'm a happy person because it engages more of my brain. When you create, you engage more of your brain than when you consume. The more of your brain that's engaged, the happier you are. That's just how we're wired. Okay. We're designed to use this noggin, right? That's why it takes up so much energy because it's an important part of this whole package. And like I said, I engage my brain in lots of different ways writing, drawing, cooking, and things that I'm horrible at, like embroidery. I'm horrible at it, but I think it's really pretty. And so, maybe someday I'll be good at embroidery, but I just do a little bit of it now. Occasionally, I also will, if I'm sending someone a card, occasionally I will paint a little watercolored flower on there or, the sun and some stars, something fun like that. I just like to, see what's possible. And I feel like that keeps me engaged and joyful in a really positive way. So, self-care is the any practice that makes you mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally taken care of, what you need in order to thrive. And I find that being creative, expressing myself creatively helps me to exist at a higher level than when I am not expressing myself creatively. So hopefully you've taken something from today's chat about creative expression as self-care, and maybe I would love to hear from you. You can always put it in the chat or the comments wherever you listen. I would love to hear from you what creative expression you are going to be pursuing. And remember, it doesn't have to be quote unquote fine art. It doesn't have to be painting, it doesn't have to be poetry. It can be anything. Anything where you are making something is creative expression. So, thank you for joining me. As always, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen. It costs you nothing and it helps me in the algorithm. And remember, Mother's Day is this weekend. So I talked about Mother's Day at the top of the show. So if you want to listen to that, you can always go back. This will go up as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast number 155. But happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Thank you for everything that you do to raise up the next generation. And remember, planning makes everything easier. Bye.